Mexico, freeing up FEMA funds to cover disaster relief efforts. Forecasters predict the storm could evolve into a Category 3 hurricane or worse.
No deaths have been reported. Hurricane Fiona wreaking havoc on the Dominican Republic. With the influx of migrants at the southern border, Arizona Attorney General Republican Mark Brnovich tells Fox how he would deal with the border crisis if he were the U.S. Attorney General.
I would do what previous presidents have done, Operation Streamline, Operation Chokehold, where you aggressively pursue and prosecute people that have entered the country illegally in order to deter them from coming in.
Vice President Kamala Harris said the southern border is secure. America is listening to Fox News.
The Point is KUSG.
The people of Guam are outraged at the growing crime rate and lack of justice on Guam. They are outraged at the number of criminals arrested, released, and back on the streets committing more crimes. This must not be allowed to continue. Along with crime prevention and reduction initiatives, Felix and Tony will work with lawmakers, law enforcement, and the courts to reduce repeat offenders. Crime prevention, rehabilitation where possible, and harsh punishment for criminals. This will be justice for all.
I'm Felix Camacho, and I approve this message.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's Best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
The border crisis, a fentanyl smuggling bust is made in Tucson, Arizona. Fox's Bill Malugin reports.
5 brown bags of fentanyl, 5 pounds, were strapped to the body of a 15-year-old boy, a U.S. citizen who was on a shuttle bus going through a Border Patrol checkpoint and got caught. More than 20,000 fentanyl pills in those brown bags. And another fentanyl bust in Arizona at the Nogales port of entry, where CBP agents seized 6,000 of those colored rainbow fentanyl pills and another 20,000 traditional blue fentanyl pills, as well as 71 pounds of meth, all hidden in a smuggler's gas tank as he was trying to get into the U.S. Again, the Nogales, Arizona port of entry, an even bigger bust made by CBP agents. 276,000 fentanyl pills found in the spare tire of a smuggler's vehicle.
A Vatican envoy under attack in Ukraine. Fox's Samantha Liebman has more.
The incident took place near the city of Zaporizhia on Saturday. Vatican almoner Cardinal Konrad Rajewski and his entourage took cover as they distributed humanitarian supplies. The Polish-born cardinal told the Vatican news service, quote, "For the first time in my life, I didn't know where to run. No one was hurt. Russian shelling hit cities and towns across a wide stretch of Ukraine overnight. Officials say 4 medics were killed trying to evacuate a hospital in the Kharkiv region. Another 7 people injured in 2 other cities."
A veteran who was killed in Pearl Harbor will officially be laid to rest.
Roman W. Sidlowski, a sailor from Massachusetts, was killed during the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941. His remains, which couldn't be identified, were buried with hundreds of others like him at a military cemetery in Hawaii. But with the help of advanced DNA testing, his remains were finally identified, and the electrician's mate, 3rd class, will be buried at Arlington National Cemetery Monday.
That's Fox's Shane Astelin. I'm Laura Cantor, Fox News.
Half a day. This is Clara Manglania from Security Title. A power of attorney can be a useful tool in a real estate transaction, but if abused, it can result in devastating loss. Choosing your representative should be done with the utmost care and should be very specific about the powers being granted. To mitigate loss, the team at Security Title confirms with the owner prior to using a power of attorney to sell the property. Each transaction is unique. Let the professionals at Security Title use our experience to facilitate a secure closing. We are here to help.
Are you looking for a new place to hang out with your friends? Let's go along the sidelines at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Located at 154 Iriarty Road, Unit 4 and 5 in Tamuning behind Royal Bigs. Sidelines, a hidden gem with nothing but great things to offer. Great atmosphere, great food, top shelf drinks, and a great team. What are we waiting for? Let the fun begin at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 2 a.m. See you there.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So saith the Second Amendment, a part of the Bill of Rights of the United States Constitution. Welcome to Tall Tales. It is Monday, September 19th. My name is Jose Martinez, and you're listening to this program on 93.3 FM on the radio or over Facebook at The Point or on the YouTube channel, talltales.com. Oh, you know what? We have a new YouTube address. I got to look that up. We have been broadcasting on a strange YouTube channel address before. I can't find it right now. It had a whole bunch of different kinds of letters and numbers before it because we weren't a bona fide channel yet. And I want to thank everybody who subscribed. Once we reached over 100 subscribers plus a couple of other qualifications we had to meet, they allowed us to have our own unique, or allowed Bob to have his own unique URL for YouTube. And let me look that up real quick. You can look for Bob Klitzkie or Tall Tales, but the correct, see here, the correct address, and I wish I could just press a magic button so I know what to look for here. And it's not helping me out here. I'll find it out later on. I'll post it. But you can look for Tall Tales or Bob Klitzkie. And we're broadcasting, we're streaming live on YouTube as well. Welcome, everybody. The Second Amendment was read, as it's read the beginning of every program. Let's welcome Daryl Taggarty, also in the production booth.
Good to be here.
Good afternoon, Daryl. Thanks for. You're in the dark today.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, don't be in the dark.
No,
this show will enlighten
you.
This show will bring forth the light. I want to read something that I read. So there we go. Now we can see him. Something that I read on the Wall Street Journal over the weekend. It's something I think some people picked up on this. Let me think here where it is. Well, I'll just read it. It was a report that came out a few months ago, but it's called Firing Back at Jim Crow. A new study shows how guns helped blacks against lynch mobs. Search on Google for white supremacy and gun rights, and you'll see plenty of articles claiming the Second Amendment is a tool for white America. But a new paper from Clemson University, economists Michael Makowski and Patrick Warren find the opposite is true. They say gun ownership helped black Americans defend themselves when no one else would. In other words, when black Americans couldn't count on the cops to protect them, guns made a difference. A few years ago, former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice spoke to this on ABC's The View. She related a personal anecdote from her childhood in Birmingham, Alabama, to explain her appreciation for the Second Amendment. There was no way that Bull Connor and the Birmingham police were going to protect you, she said. And so when white night riders would come through our neighborhood, my father and his friends would take their guns and they'd go to the head of the neighborhood. It's a little cul-de-sac, and they would fire in the air if anybody came through. I don't think they actually ever hit anybody, but they protected the neighborhood. And I'm sure if Bull Connor had known where those guns were, he would have rounded them up. The study confirms Miss Rice's point. Messrs. Makowski and Warren take the data about lynching and they used a percentage of gun-related suicides as a proxy for firearm access. One key point is that there was a determined effort by the Jim Crow South to disarm black Americans. The authors note that while the laws such as pistol bans may not have explicitly targeted blacks, that was the clear intent, and it was carried out by selective enforcement. Unarmed people are vulnerable, but if someone can shoot back, even a bigoted mob is going to think twice. More black Americans today are absorbing this lesson about self-defense if their gun purchases are any indication. Overall gun sales are way up in the U.S. Are way up in the U.S., but a National Shooting Sports Foundation survey for the first 6 months of 2020 reports sales to black Americans were up 58% over a year ago. Second Amendment rights for black Americans are often deliberately limited by local and state governments that, the authors say, were rarely better than indifferent to their safety and, at their worst, actively supportive of terrorist violence targeting them. All the more reason to ensure all Americans are able to enjoy this constitutional right. When the police no longer can guarantee public safety, as we see every day in too many American cities, a gun may be the only way for people to protect themselves. In his keynote address at the Miami National Conservatism Conference on September 11th, 2022, Governor Ron DeSantis highlighted how Florida differs from liberal-run states on quality of life issues, including, that's a caption to a picture that I didn't print out. Sorry.
Not
so that's
a continuation of the story?
Not a continuation of the story.
I wanted to hear what he had to say about this.
There's nothing else. You have to. I'll send you the link to the story. It's from September 16th. But that's interesting, and it is something that, anecdotally, like Secretary Condoleezza Rice's story, we've seen instances where the media has even cropped out pictures of African Americans or blacks carrying rifles in places that is illegal to carry on the streets, especially in protests where it would be inconvenient to show a person of color with a firearm. But it is interesting because this shows that, and I'm not a firearm owner myself, I just know that this is the Second Amendment. Again, I'll say the same thing I always say. If you want to get rid of guns, get rid of the Second Amendment. But nobody has the courage to do that. So all this is just pomp and circumstances whenever they do a gun ban or a gun control law, because we know that those who abide by the law are not the problem. But anyways, I digress. This is a study. I haven't read the study yet. It's probably hidden behind an academic firewall, like all studies are. So I would rely on these editorials or people who have access to it. But it is very interesting, and I think we've seen or we've heard of instances where, somebody comes up against a firearm, they're going to walk to the next house that doesn't have. They're going to walk to the next house that has the sign posted on the yard, "This home is free of firearms," right? And I feel bad for those who post signs like that. So, yeah, just another Second Amendment story. Let's go to Jemmy Ikatni. Jemmy Ikatni, it is Bob Klitzkie's version of Meet the Press, which is a program. I'm not sure if the program still exists, but I know.
I saw a reference this weekend. I think it still exists, but only in local markets, like in the D.C. area. It's not a nationally syndicated show.
Oh, interesting. I know Chuck Todd has been taken off of it. If he's still the host, then it is in a very limited market, which is interesting as well, too, because that has a long, real good history as a Sunday news talk show. But here on Tall Tales, we take our press and we press their meat. That sounds weird. I'm not going to repeat that again. But, of course, in our print media, the Post does not print a local editorial, so we were going to skip them and then go to Guam PDM, who gave, I'm not a numbers person or economic person, but I think it's a pretty good op-ed today. But there's two interesting articles I want to cite before we read the op-ed. The first one is going to come from 2021, actually. June 17th, 2021. And this came out in the Guam PDN. Cruz, auditors poached by other agencies. And it sounds familiar to the one that was in the front page of, I think it was Sunday's edition. I'm not too sure. Sunday or Saturday's edition of PDN. And I'm just going to highlight some of the things he said that were reported in the June 17th article. About 10 employees have left the Office of Public Accountability in the last year. Public Auditor Benjamin J.F. Cruz told lawmakers during a Wednesday budget hearing. The turnover is the result of a high disparity in the pay between positions for auditors and accountants at the OPA and other autonomous agencies. He said, according to Cruz, members of his staff could easily leave the agency and make $10,000 to $15,000 more at another office. The increase in salaries for the OPA's auditors was one of the few requests that Cruz made of lawmakers during the budget hearing. The budget presentation from the Office of Public Accountability has a very minor, barely 10% increase that we included, just organic growth, in the hopes of being able to give my auditors their increments during this year, he said. Cruz said that his core team of 4 auditors only remained at the agency because they are dedicated public servants who enjoy the work they did. A number of employees he was forced to lay off in the past have gone on to make more money than he currently is making, he stated. Vice Speaker Tina Munoz Barnes asked Cruz what assistance the legislature could possibly give him to help with the issue. It's not an issue of more money, because you can give me more money, lots more money, and as long as there's no equity or parity between our offices and the autonomous agencies, I'm going to be the feeder agency for everyone else, Cruz said. I will train them and they will go, he said. On June 2nd, the Department of Administration Director Edward Byrne told lawmakers that his agency had similar problems with accountants being poached by autonomous government agencies. Senator Joe San Augustine stated that he is considering a pay study to equalize the salaries between light agencies and autonomous agencies in the government. And according to Cruz, a pay study was conducted by former public auditor Doris Flores Brooks, which created a separate category for auditors employed at the Accountability Office. Let me see here. I'm going to keep going to where he says, and then Senator Mary Camacho Torres offered that the old pay study could possibly use to draw up a new plan for OPA auditors. And then it goes on to say that there are also 4 proposed unclassified positions for the agency, including a director, managing auditor, and 2 supervisory auditors that could not be filled, and then had a list of ongoing audits, but we can probably save that for another time. And let's move forward to 2022, September 19th. This article, I believe, came in Sundays. I think it was Sundays. While there are notable increases in the authority of the Office of Public Accountability in the recent signed 2023 Budget Act, the agency responsible for combing through GovGuam's books as local government spending reaches historic highs still faces one uphill battle, according to Public Auditor B.J. Cruz. Guess what that is?
I think you just told us, but like
keeping experienced staff from leaving for greener pastures. Here we are, a year and a few months since the original report, and it still isn't fixed. Pay is the problem, Cruz said. This is the article from a couple days ago, or yesterday. Pay is the problem, Cruz said. The office, which had 6 of 20 staff positions vacant at the start of the fiscal year, lost another auditor in recent months, staffing patterns show. Senator Joanne Brown, during budget discussions, proposed increasing the salaries for the office auditors to the level of the highest paid accountants in autonomous agencies like the Guam Power Authority, who regularly poach OPA staff, plus a 10% pay differential. But Brown compromised following concerns from several senators about the pay hike, and OPA staff were ultimately allowed only to get raises in line with a study completed completed by Leading Edge Consulting Group back in 2014. It would have been hypocritical for the Office of Public Accountability to accept the higher back of the cocktail napkin pay raise, Cruz admitted. It would really look bad. He said he was thankful, but an evidence-based, properly documented pay study needed to be done to get the OPA's pay on track.
I'm wondering whether once somebody does a year, 2 years, 5 years at the Office of Public Accountability, whether they have that experience to cite when they apply to other agencies. And so they should pull down a higher salary because when they're going into the field directly to the OPA, where did they come from? Did they come from private firms like Deloitte? And I, from my experience with auditors that are sent out from an agency, I mean from a auditing firm like Deloitte, are the lowest, the newest employees with the least experience, and they're being supervised, they're being told, you know, how to do the audit, and then they perform the audit, and then their supervisor will review their work, and if there are additional questions, it comes back through. But they're the least experienced in the firm. And then, so the applicants to the OPA would be who? And then the applicants to the autonomous agencies are not going to be fresh out of college. They're going to be experienced, and they can pull down higher salaries. And all of this will come out in the study.
Well,
That's
one
why
of the
you have
things,
studies.
one of the things that Cruz did point out in the June 17th, the 2021 article, is that his staff are not accountants; they are auditors. However, once he trains them, I guess, and they do, I guess, go to other degrees, get other degrees, that's when they get poached by the other agencies.
That's why you have to have an objective study, because we can't talk about individuals in the OPA office and their individual qualifications, their academic preparation, their years of experience. We can't, in the public, discuss this rationally.
Well, he also in the article from yesterday, I know we keep jumping back and forth to the other ones, but just to put in perspective, it says here the OPA isn't the only agency responsible for large sums of GovGuam money that needs to adjust the pay for accounting and auditing staff. He said that the pay at the Department of Administration and the Guam Department of Education also needs to be addressed. So they also have auditors that are getting less than, I guess, equitable pay.
So equitable is based on market?
Well, to the other autonomous agencies.
Well, the autonomous agencies don't have a legislature and a set of laws to tell them how to set their pay. And so they hire according to the market. There is a market for the personnel that are being hired at the autonomous agencies.
Yeah, let me finish this, and this might address some of the things that you're bringing up also. Based on the 2014 Competitive Wage Act, entry-level accounting staff at both agencies make around the same $37,000 that OPA staff made prior to the recent pay raise. Cruz said neither department will be able to keep its books straight if they can't hold on to the staff responsible for doing so. It says here the Department of Administration, responsible for moving all of GovGuam's money around, only recently hired a chief financial officer, Cruz said. Guam DOE, which accounts for the largest portion of the GovGuam General Fund next year, about $231 million, still doesn't have one. Unless the government addresses the salary at GDOE, we're going to continue to pay $3 million in third-party custodian fees, and I assure you that paying them the correct salary will not cost $3 million a year. All three of us have to be upgraded so that we can get the record straight. Auditing firm Ernst & Young will be picking up the auditing contracts left behind now that current third-party auditor for GovGuam, Deloitte & Touche, is shutting its doors on island. And then he talks about how some of the firm's staff from Deloitte & Touche are going over to Ernst & Young. And so the bids for the contract just seem to be what's the word called? Continuity. Kept in continuity in the sense that it's the same people working on it. Yeah, which leads to today's Our View. And they're probably just going to repeat a lot of things they put in their own article, but I don't want to read it because they opined. Financial accountability and properly monitoring the government of Guam's books has long been at the top of GovGuam's list of things to improve. For decades, taxpayers, GovGuam employees, leaders from both sides of the aisle, depending on which party holds Adelup and legislative majority, and vocal community stakeholders are frequent critics of the government's accounting practices who admonish and attribute Guam's many shortfalls to bad accounting. While some of these claims do hold water in the blame game of whose fault is it today, we also must consider the many shortcomings that make auditing and monitoring government spending more difficult for the average layperson to fully understand. Behind the scenes of budget projections, appropriations, allocations, and distributions exists a complex network of transactions, authorizations, laws, and regulations that govern how, when, who, and what amount of public funds get transferred on any given day from one government account to another. Monitoring these transactions for their validity and legality in a government responsible for billions in local and federal funds is not a task or function for which we can mandate utilizing bargain rates. If we want the government's finances to check out clean and clear, we've got to ensure the Office of Public Accountability is staffed and funded on a competitive level that attracts and retains quality auditors. This office in particular must be driven by auditors fearlessly committed to keeping GovGuam's finances in line and above board. In order to do this, we must recruit qualified, experienced, and educated experts with the same diligence and financial offers we use to entice qualified doctors or medical examiner to come to Guam. Public Auditor Benjamin Cruz said recently that his office is not the only agency responsible for large sums of GovGuam money, and that compensation for accounting and auditing staff at the Department of Administration and the Guam Department of Education must also be addressed. Moving forward with billion-dollar budgets to carry out GovGuam mandates makes it clear that we need to invest more in qualified finance experts. Shortchanging our accounting and auditing workforce government-wide is shortchanging the financial health of all of GovGuam. And that is their op-ed.
You know what hasn't been mentioned at all since you started this subject? Whether we have qualified personnel to do accounting checks at the legislature, and of course the governor's office has the Bureau of Budget and Management Research that oversees the government of Guam and approves the movement of money from one account to the other to another at Department of Administration. They track those monies. So there's a need for qualified people in all of those areas. And
well, I find it's interesting that let me see, where did he say this? The monies that government of Guam spends for third-party custodian fees, and I'm assuming that's what Deloitte and Touche were receiving.
That was the third party was the U.S. Department of Education required that these employees be sent here from the state, and they were sitting in and they had to approve all of the transactions all the paperwork that was going out of the Guam DOE accounting financial affairs office.
I'm one of those lay people that doesn't understand a lot of how that works, and you're the policy guy. Is that akin to like a soft receivership where somebody is overlooking, and it's still the government, right? That's the federal government that comes in?
Yes, because it is the largest recipient of federal funds on Guam. It's and the agency has a poor record of being able to account for the funds that they received and spent. The documentation wasn't auditable.
But is the Is the reason why the third-party custodian is here because we don't have any on the island, or because it was mandated by federal law? Or because we messed up?
It was a condition of continuing to receive the grants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that had to be paid out of general fund.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would submit that this right here, this whole auditing thing, will be tied into something we're going to talk about in the card later. That was front page on the PDN as well, talking about the hospital and secret plans and transparency, accountability. Directly, no, but could be a little bit more. There could be a little bit more aggressive nature from the OPA if they had the backing of good auditors.
The auditor is only overseeing. The OPA is only overseeing what is appropriated
after
the budget bill. And federal and local, and the agencies themselves have their own, like basically they need to have their books in order to be auditable. And they're better at that now than they were.
Let's hope so. But that's the open topic that I think a lot of people have opinions on. I have a very limited opinion because I have very limited knowledge on how that works. But let's do a little bit on that while we go to the break, the bottom of the hour break. You're listening to Tall Tales here on KUSG 93.3 FM. My name is Jose Martinez. Don't go away. More Tall Tales.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training every morning on The Ray Gibson Show.
Does your physical workplace have an impact on the mental outlook of workers, their overall job satisfaction, and their productivity? I'm Jerry Roberts, and at 7:20 a.m. on The Ray Gibson Show, we'll talk about that and what you might want to do about it. It's The Extra Point here on 93.3.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point by Jerry Roberts at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts on The Ray Gibson Show on 93.3 The Point.
Get ready to save up and chow down with Pacific Points. Now you can redeem Pacific Points for UnoGo wallet credits and enjoy huge savings on food delivery. Order from over 80 restaurants and have it delivered straight to your door. Continue earning points when you fuel up at Shell, shop at Foodies, purchase ITNE prepaid load, and pay your monthly ITNE bill. Then get ready to claim your rewards. Learn more at PacificPoints.com. Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
And now back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the one radio show politicians don't want you to listen to. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
Welcome back to Tall Tales here on KUSG 93.3 FM. And we just finished with Jimmy Cotney. Go ahead and Daryl, I know that you are working on phone lines right now, but we're going to go to playing on the card as well. Pretty soon. They'll ring that bell later on, but when what's on the card, of course, let me get my generic card first. Today, as always, every day, because this is something that, until it goes away, will be repeated and reminded, it's Paul Zerzan versus systemic racism. We all know that when Paul Zerzan pointed out that red rice is really orange, something that we could see with our own eyes, he got a lot of pushback, not from people who are concerned with the spectrum of color, but people who are concerned with the cultural ideals of our red rice. And how dare he claim that our red rice is orange. Everyone knows that red rice is not orange. And that's the system, that's the narrative. It's not about the rice, it's not about the color. It's about what everybody knows, and how dare you go against what is against the grain, against the color. And also we have PL 3634. There's a couple of things in question that we have to point out going through the papers from the weekend of announcements. Public Law 3634, I did look up. There's two things that it does address. It addresses or it adds It adds things to Guam Code Annotated, let me see, 43122. This one has to do with public access to information on government meetings, deliberations, and decision-making by requiring broadcasting of public meetings and notice of agenda items. And it added that we have to, or government meetings not only have to be advertised or published beforehand, they also have to be broadcast live via Zoom or streaming application, and the agendas published have to be detailed. In other words, you can't just put a stock outline like like you just picked it off from a generic agenda. And then we're going to go to let's read this here. We're going to talk a little about the racism stuff. So the systemic racism, and here I have let me grab my card here.
Sorry, did I miss your announcement that you're beginning?
No, you can go ahead and do the bell. Anytime is good. I know that you had
pot it up.
So we have here the we already did Second Amendment versus white supremacy, or the versus Jim Crow law, or Jim Crow laws versus the Second Amendment. We have we did pay rates versus BJ Cruz. For systemic racism, because I found a couple articles, and Bob Klitzkie sent me something also that was connected to it. There's a new movie that came out this week over the weekend called The Woman King. It has to do. Woohoo!
And game on.
Game on it, and The Woman King has to do with a tribe in Africa. That was a very aggressive, very dominating tribe as far as other African tribes. They do have predominantly female leaders in the tribe. I haven't seen the movie. I know a little bit about the tribe, but I think the rhetoric that's swarming around this is very interesting. And that one is called Woman King versus Black Lives Matters. And then we have Bill Maher versus presentism or wokeism. Next after that, we have Adelup and Gita versus the voters. Then we have border cities versus sanctuary cities, and this has a little bit to do with the brouhaha up there at Martha's Vineyard. Emphasis on the haha.
We don't hear enough about Martha's Vineyard.
I think it's just hilarious. It's awesome. And yes, it was a political stunt. I don't think there should be any apologies about it. And it may not have gone the way people wanted it to go, but I think it opened up a discussion that hopefully people see. And we'll talk about it when we get to it, but very interesting thing. And then we're going to go to things I had on the card. I'm not sure if I'm going to get to Underwood's op-ed over the weekend. I'm still not sure how I want to frame that. It is.
Well, it'll keep.
It's a keeper. It's funny.
We'll have another day this week, and
Yes.
it was a weekend item, so.
It was.
Let's go with what
it came out on Friday. They published it online first before they put it in print. So many people got to read it beforehand before other people grabbed it off the shelves in paper. But it's to me it's interesting, but I don't think it's impactful. But I got Kagan, Supreme Court Justice Kagan versus the Constitution or the Supreme Court. Biden versus the inflation, and if we get to that, because it's getting kind of stale now, Brandon versus the real 9-1. But I want to read the Biden versus inflation. Hopefully we get to that. Oh, and don't forget, we have Hope's screen test today.
Coming up after
the halftime show. Halftime show. Hope Christobel's submission for the Nobel Peace Prize. Thank you, Daryl.
My reflexes are getting quicker.
Right. So let's get to systemic racism. There's an article I'm going to read, and it's actually it comes from Arizona, the Arizona Central newspaper. I'm not sure which city it publishes out of, but it's a story or an op-ed on the movie, and it addresses the controversy in a way that I think is hilarious because it addresses systemic racism by making excuses for it. And
what movie is that?
It's called The Woman King.
Okay.
And the title of this op-ed is called The Woman King Isn't Historically Accurate, but here's why it's still worth watching. Now, just keep that in mind to all the other historically inaccurate films that have been out there based on stories.
Hobbit?
No, something like
Or
Braveheart.
Cinderella?
Or even what happened in 2020 when all the statues started coming down because of wokeness of all the four founding fathers like Thomas Jefferson and even Abraham Lincoln.
Right.
So, anyways, and this features the actress named Viola Davis. All hail Viola Davis. She stars in The Woman King as General Naniska, leader of the Agoji, a group of fearless female warriors who protect the kingdom of Dahomey under King Gezo. I might be mispronouncing it, but I'm doing this as much as I can. I'll probably keep to those same pronunciations. If you're wondering why it's not just called the Queen, it's explained that the people of the Dahomey believed in a legend of two kings, a man and a woman, who are exact equals, and the Naniska is expected to be crowned Woman King. There's the wokeism right there.
There it is.
They have to interject that. That's why it's a famous movie right now, or a controversial movie. This is a new type of role for Davis, who is best known for The Help, How to Get Away with Murder, Fences, and other dramas, but has never starred in an action film. She does not disappoint. Now you got to celebrate this actress. Never mind the role she's playing. We're celebrating the actress, and
we already
she gets
did
to play this role. The film, directed by Gina Prince Bythewood, who did Love and Basketball and The Secret Life of Bees, is inspired by true events, but is mostly fictionalized. So if you're a stickler for historical accuracy, this film isn't for you. But if you're a fan of action-adventure full of bad butt women, I'm not going to say it on the air, keep reading. So they're setting up the tone already, right? That this movie is gravely historically inaccurate because it doesn't promote the wokeism that it needs to or it ought to because of who plays it and who it's about. Right now, it's an identity politics film. Presentism. The film centers around Naniska as she trains a new cohort of recruits as the Ngoji prepare to battle against an enemy who has threatened the kingdom. The women must go through grueling tests to prove that they are fearless and tough, both physically and mentally. Naui is one of the trainees who stands out because she talks back, refuses to follow orders, and isn't ruthless enough. Naniska sees a lot of herself in Naui, maybe too much so. The kingdom of Dahomey is beholden to the Oyo Empire, and the Agoji must provide that it captures as tributes to the Oyo to be sold into the Atlantic slave trade. Bum, bum, bum. What is the Atlantic slave trade famous for? Providing the U.S. with all its slaves, right?
Yeah, and other countries like Brazil and
but in this
English
focus,
and
the United States, because remember, the United States is evil.
it
and
wasn't
the only slave traders.
It wasn't the U.S. It was the colonies.
Well, the colonies, right?
Right.
You're right, not the United States. Well, anyways, Naniska is determined to convince the king that trading in palm oil instead of slaves is not only the morally correct choice, but would allow Dahomey to be independent. That's historically wrong. Anyways, however, going against the Oyo doesn't come without its consequences or casualties. The Goji often are referred to as the Dahomey Amazons and are described as warrioresses. That's female for warrior.
Warrioresses? It's like tresses.
You can't, they can't just be warriors. They have to be warrioresses. I didn't even know that was a word. Who fight with extreme valor, always ahead of the other troops. They are outstandingly brave, well-trained for combat, and very disciplined. According to the Guardian Nigeria News, they trained with intense physical exercise and learned survival skills and indifference to pain and death. While this is apparent in the film, the writers take a lot of artistic liberties with the timeline, characters, and the nature of the Kingdom of Dahomey's involvement in the slave trade. As the website History versus Hollywood put it, In real life, the Dahomey are much more the villains than the heroes. The business of slavery is what brought Dahomey most of its wealth. For them, it very much came down to either enslave others or become enslaved yourself. Prince by the Wood told The Hollywood Reporter that was one of the first conversations they had when they joined the film. She said, while they didn't want to shy away from the historical facts, they wanted to tell a story which is about overcoming and fighting for what's right. Sorry.
Okay.
And I think we got it right.
Well, they could have used a different book. You know, they could have used a different story.
Dare I say they whitewashed the story? Anyways, ratings of the film have varied drastically from a 4.10 star average on IMDb to 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Surprise, surprise. Many of the criticisms seem to revolve around these historical inaccuracies, but this is not the first time warriors inspired by the Ngozi have been portrayed on the big screen. In a documentary on women warriors, host Lupita Nyong'o, who was once attached to the Woman King before her role in Black Panther, said that the Dora Milaje in the Marvel blockbuster was inspired by the Ngozi. Now that's definitive fictional comic book material there. You can't compare the two. Based off of versus making a historical pick, but saying it's fictionalized.
I don't see where where any kind of an objective standard applies to this anyway. No matter what the story, even to be true to a book, the screenplay is going to take artistic liberties in order to craft a film.
That's the given, Daryl.
Right.
But the point of this is the narrative, right? Versus all the other films that are being trashed and canceled all throughout the United States right now. And then this comes out and says, just ignore the real history.
Yeah, don't worry about history.
We're going to tell a story that props it up anyways, right?
Yes,
and just go watch it. It's hilarious. I mean, it's like this op-ed is saying, yeah, it's horrible, but never mind. I wonder how Black Lives Matter feels about this.
Maybe PBS will make the real story of the Woman King.
Yeah. So the real story of the Woman King is about a group of women, Black women, who are celebrated, even revered for their strength and resilience, and not defined by their femininity or potential as wives and mothers. And there you go. That's the whole reason why they celebrated these slave traders, because they were women that were like men. Because it said they weren't celebrated or defined by femininity, so they must have been defined by their likeness to masculinity.
So they're not being celebrated for the 20th century build-up, the late 20th century build-up of commercial, overt sexism in commercial media, and now the pendulum swings the other direction, because there's always been strong women in society,
but just not the strength defined by how some people want to define it. Right?
Let's go watch a movie.
I know. I'm going to watch anyways because I get entertained by movies. If it's really drastically goes against my moral compass, I'm not going to go to it. But
just watch out they don't shoot you.
But I'm going to wait till it gets on.
They see you. Jose, there he is.
Nonsense. Go watch it if you want to. Just laugh at the rhetoric that's being promoted in this op-ed. So anyways, it goes on to say, as Davis told IndiaWire, people need to see women warriors. In this day and age, in this culture where women are under attack, except in Guam, where there's a woman governor, and we had a majority women legislature. And we have very successful women's chamber of commerce. Where women are under attack, I would love for women to tap into that warrior spirit, to know that they have the power to change the narrative or kill their baby in the womb. I knew nothing about the real story of the Ngozi before I saw The Woman King. I thought it was breathtaking, creative, and powerful film. And despite knowing the history now, I still do. Did you know that Hitler provided very good health benefits for his soldiers? Anyways, that was The Woman King. Isn't historically accurate, and here's why it's still worth watching. We have some callers in the green room. Let's see who. Let's get to Mark about The Woman King. Mark, go ahead.
Jose.
Hey, how you doing?
All right. Hey, so what is the name of the country?
I can't pronounce it. It's the Kingdom of Dahomey, Dahomey. Yeah.
Dahomey. Oh, okay. So is Damon Wayans in part of the movie?
I don't know.
Because he would be Dahomey the clown.
But Dahomey don't say that.
Dahomey don't play that.
They don't play that. That's right. That's funny. I don't know. I saw. Yeah, actually, I saw. It was interesting. I saw this movie poster at GPO the other day. It was kind of juxtaposed against the new Black Panther film. I said, "Oh, that's interesting. Is this a prequel to the prequel or the sequel?" But it wasn't. It's completely different.
Yeah. No. So I actually saw the preview and I thought, well, it looks like something interesting, but. I didn't know if I would watch it, but yeah, it looked interesting.
Yeah, the controversy around it is the narrative trying to erase the controversy is interesting. And the next article I'm going to go to talks about Bill Maher. Yeah, and opining on that, and he's been kind of red-pilled. So I really appreciate it. Somebody who is not on quote unquote our side, but understands the absurdity of what's going on these days.
Okay, well, I'll be listening. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Bye. Talk to you later. Another Joe, what say you?
I was hoping to pick up on where the conversation has evolved to, because you started talking about how the movie is somehow woke, and our culture is going woke, and this movie is playing into this woke mentality. But I'm not sure if that's the way what's being.
There's elements. There's big elements of it. It has to do with. My main purpose is to mock the rationalization that this article or this op-ed, this author gives to this movie, despite all the atrocities and the historical connection to, like, this is why I said is versus Black Lives Matters, is because this tribe that it depicts, this women-led tribe it celebrates, had a huge part of the slave trade. Now, mind you, that the slave trade wasn't just relegated to the United States. It was worldwide. It's been going on for centuries and centuries, even way before Jesus Christ was born. It's in old scripture. It's been around for such a long time. But the way that they depict this tribe, because it is led by a black woman, presentism tells us that has to be celebrated no matter what. Forget what they did. Forget how they separated families and sold Africans to traders all over the world. They were strong, fearless, and washed away their femininity. So that has to be celebrated. But thanks for the call, Joe, and for allowing me to clarify. We do have to go to a break, but
okay, thanks.
Call in anytime. You listen to KUSG Tall Tales on 93.3 FM. We're going to go to a quick break. Don't go away.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Okay, as we come off the break, I want to get to articles that Bob Klitzkie sent me. And I don't know if he read the other one that I had found on the Women King and the apologetic for it. but apology, not an apologetic, the apology. Two separate words. What he sent me was from Town Hall, a conservative blog with some news on it. It says here, Bill Maher takes a flamethrower to the left's crusade against history. The red pilling of Bill Maher continues as the HBO host took a flamethrower to the woke left again for the most obvious reason. Their grotesque fixation with presentism. We have written about this ad nauseum regarding the left's incessant need to be on the right side of the arc of history and the illiberal lengths they will go to satisfy that position. The campaign against statutes and the names of buildings they have found offensive is one of the clearest examples, as if that will wash away history. This behavior is tragically predictable, given the left's other insufferable habit of trying to create a societal atmosphere where no one's feelings get hurt. To quote Brad Pitt, ideals are peaceful, history is violent. If you've seen Fury, you know what scene I'm referencing. It's illogical, almost criminal, to apply 21st century social standards retroactively when we enslaved people, engaged in atrocities, and slaughtered each other much more frequently. I'm not just referring to American history. This is humanity writ large. Human history contains pervasive violence, misery, death, and the destruction of societies. We have progressed, and liberal America's failure to see that is one of the more annoying characteristics. Talk about not seeing the forest for the trees. This is a hallmark trait for the woke, wealthy, college-educated, and overwhelmingly white progressive voter bloc within the Democratic Party. Mayer correctly said that history is not fan fiction. He added that he's not perfect and made mistakes, noting his smoking habits and participation in numerology. He was fair in criticizing both sides, noting that at times conservatives might have tried to whitewash history. But this concerted effort to abuse history to control the future is a liberal invention. Liberal comedian Bill Maher roasted the concept of presentism, where historical figures and events are judged in the prism of the present, further arguing against the often claimed leftist position that white people are usually to blame for history's lesser moments. Maher said that it's stupid to think that people from centuries or millennia ago really should have known better, remarking that most kids regret a lot of what they did in their youth, as humanity regrets most of what it's done in its early years. Maher pushed back on assertions that slavery was basically unique to America, pointing out that the root of the term is Slav, adding that Slavic people are not black. Slavery throughout history has been the rule, not the exception. He went on adding that human capacity for cruelty is just that, human, and not explicitly white. I'll finish this when we get back from the break of the halftime show. You're listening to Tall Tales on 93.3 FM KUSG, The Point. My name is Jose Martinez. Don't go away. More after the halftime show.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Puerto Rico in the dark. I'm Laura Cantor, Fox News. Hurricane Fiona hitting Puerto Rico's southwest coast, knocking out power to the entire island, including its largest public hospital, which was running on generators. President Biden has declared a state of emergency for the island. Fox Weather's hurricane specialist Brian Norcross has more on the rainfall forecast.
The south side of the island and the east side, 12 to 16 inches of rain, up to 25 inches. The north side, significantly less, including the San Juan area, by the way, where most people live. I'm afraid that on the south side, this is just going to be horrendous.
Hurricane Fiona striking the Dominican Republic. Prior to attending Queen Elizabeth II's funeral on Monday, President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden visiting her coffin in Westminster Hall Sunday. After signing an official condolence book for mourners, the president spoke about dealing with grief.
Our hearts go out to the royal family, to King Charles and all the family. It's a loss that leaves a giant hole. Sometimes you think you'll never overcome it. As I've told the king, she's going to be with him every step of the way, every minute, every moment. And that's a reassuring notion.
Meanwhile, in an interview with CBS's 60 Minutes that aired Sunday, President Biden said he thinks the COVID-19 pandemic is now over, but the country still has a problem with the virus. Following the discovery of a mass grave site, Ukraine's President Zelensky promised in his nightly address that the counteroffensive on Russian forces will continue.
Zelensky toured the strategic town of Izium as evidence of mass graves and war crimes mount. In some cases, troops used Soviet-era radio telephones with additional wires and alligator clips as a power source to shock prisoners during interrogation.
That's national security correspondent at the Pentagon, Jennifer Griffin. America is listening to Fox News.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
Half a day. This is Claire Manglania from Security Title. A power of attorney can be a useful tool in a real estate transaction, but if abused, it can result in devastating loss. Choosing your representative should be done with the utmost care and should be very specific about the powers being granted. To mitigate loss, the team at Security Title confirms with the owner prior to using a power of attorney to sell the property. Each transaction is unique. Let the professionals at Security Title use our experience to facilitate a secure closing. We are here to help.
The United Nations General Assembly will meet in New York City this week, where the focus will be on the war in Ukraine.
I think they'll want to show that the invasion of Ukraine continues to be illegal and isn't working. You know, Russia is not at risk from Ukraine. Russia started the war wholly for its own purposes, not for its security.
That's British Ambassador to the United States, Karen Pierce. A Louisiana State University student was shot to death in her car early Friday morning. Fox's Charles Watson has the story.
This cold-blooded murder happened near downtown Baton Rouge, just miles away from LSU's campus. Baton Rouge police identified the victim as 21-year-old Allison Rush. Investigators say the LSU senior was found shot multiple times inside her bullet-riddled car near a train crossing around 2 a.m. Friday morning. Police say Rice had been out with friends that night and believe she was stopped at those railroad tracks, likely waiting for a train to pass when she was shot.
A virus is killing wild rabbits in South Carolina.
Feral rabbits and hares in South Carolina are being found dead, and scientists are blaming a very contagious disease affecting the animals. They call it rabbit hemorrhagic disease virus type 2, and it will cause rabbits to quickly lose weight, bleed from their mouths, noses, and ears, and eventually die. The survival rate is only about 30%. Humans can't get sick from it, but they can carry and pass on the virus to pet rabbits.
That's Fox's Eben Brown. The Las Vegas Aces winning its first WNBA title. The Arizona Cardinals overcoming a 20-point deficit to beat the Las Vegas Raiders with a 59-yard fumble return touchdown in overtime. I'm Laura Cantor, Fox News.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's Best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tuman location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Quality healthcare on Guam requires investments across the entire spectrum of healthcare services. The Camacho Ada gubernatorial team believes that creating a healthier community requires a holistic approach to healthcare. This involves preventive medicine, a sustainable public hospital, and a clean environment. Felix and Tony will take a practical approach to modernizing our aging healthcare infrastructure that accounts for the needs of our residents and the needs of our healthcare professionals.
I'm Felix Camacho, and I approve this message.
Tell me about it, stud.
Circle K's Craft Beer and Whiskey Festival is back on Saturday, October 22nd. We rockin' and rollin' at the Dusatani Guam Resort from 2 to 10 p.m. Bring your friends and come dressed in your best grease costume to win up to $500 in cash and prizes. So bust out those leather jackets and 50-style outfits as we party the night away at Circle K's Craft Beer and Whiskey Fest. Don't be a square. Get your tickets now at craftbeerfestguam.com or cruise on by any 76 Circle K location. Now that's cool, baby.
Back here on KUSG 93.3 FM. You're listening to Tall Tales with Jose Martinez. I just want to get all of the Rogues Gallery in. The end of the halftime show, the big halftime show. We finally have all our musicians and our band members mask-free on the field because there is no more mandate. And if you heard the news at the top of the hour, was it this one or the one before that? Biden said that it looks like the pandemic is over. But don't tell that to the governor. She'll lose her health emergency. She might lose the money, too. Anyways, it is Monday. Time for the Hope Cristobal screen test. We're just going to go right to it. Let me see if I can find it. I'm always losing it.
No, you've got it at your fingertips.
There we go. This happened at a Black Lives Matter rally here on Guam, and she had a confrontation with Paul Zerzan. This is the Guam nominee for the Nobel Peace Prize.
You're nothing but a white colonizer. That's who you are. Colonization. You're the same thing as slow murder. You're a murderer. That's who you are. We need to just do different. We need to do that. Get off my island.
Sir, you need to go. You can't be policing people here and telling people how to protest or what to protest for. You need to go. You need to go. I'm against this. That's cool, but you cannot be policing people and telling them how to protest and what to advocate for. She has a right to go.
I'm an indigenous tomorrow. I have more rights here than you are. You came here because of the structures of colonialism, asshole. Tayo mamalaw, how sige Jordan Tano, di Tautano, how Baho bini Tautano, Baho bini Magahoga, Baho short the guy you two bibi, Hago Tata a short movie. You need to leave.
You need to go.
Please.
You need to get out of here.
Please, sponsor.
Get out of here.
Please, this is not your
When I get a chance, go.
Please, thank you, sponsor. Please. Oh, you think
What happened, ma'am?
Well, he confronted me.
What did he
He's
say?
telling me I shouldn't be here. I support Black Lives Matter. It's part of the colonialistic systemic racism. And I came here to support these people. He's a white man that has come here. And he continues the legacy of colonialism. He continues to fight people, individuals, my goodness. I'm I'm a former senator. I authored the Commission on Decolonization. Hi, Mama.
We are proud of you, Auntie.
Just
And that is the screen test. Hope submission for the Nobel Peace Prize. I think it was left on the cutting room floor, though. So, and you know, some may say, well, this is just one depiction. That was only one camera, and you know, so I'm hoping there was another one there that that depicted Paul Zerzan's continuous fight of people and individuals, continuism of the legacy of colonialism. I didn't pick it up on on this video, so maybe there's another one out there that depicts the full event.
Yeah, it seems like I'd like to have heard what he was saying to her.
Yeah, from what I understand, he actually came in the studio here and said that while he supports Black Lives Matter, he thought that her sign was co-opting the movement, kind of like nudging in to ride the coattails. And whatever, if you agree or disagree, I'm not sure it warranted the kind of reaction that he received. But, you know, these kind of functions ignite emotions and maybe reveal a personality that is a little more true than others, right?
And I think that he may have been right, because that's what she said, why she was there.
Exactly. Yeah, and so that makes for a very interesting video to watch. But if you've never seen it before, and if you missed it again, or if you know somebody that's never seen this, we will be playing the screen test next Monday as well. It's interesting because Bob Klitzkie says she's also the head. Like she said herself, she's the one who authored the Decolonization Commission, or the Commission on Decolonization, and is a leader in a lot of circles. And it's just too bad that this incident happened and gets recorded and for all to see it. We still haven't seen any kind of kumbaya between the two. Not that it would change anything, I don't think.
You're looking for kumbaya?
I don't know. You know, we always want people. We want to be hopeful here on Tall Tales.
Hopeful?
Little H, Hopeful. Thanks for pointing that out, though. Next on the card. Another round, Joe. What say you on systemic? Is that racism or racism?
It's synonymous. Is the same thing?
A little bit, but what's your view?
Okay, so I was just surprised that, and right now I'm surprised about the background noise. I'm surprised that Daryl didn't do the Hong Kong for you. No, but that's seriously. Isn't this guy Zerzan? Isn't he an advocate for critical race theory?
He could be. He could be.
Am I mixing up? What is he known for? This guy Zerzan, I forget.
For me, he is known for really igniting people with his very short but to the point letters to the editor.
Oh.
For bucking the narrative.
So he doesn't necessarily support systemic racism. He just
I don't know. I've never asked him. But he definitely supports the notion that red rice is really orange.
Well, I'll tell you there, Mr. Jose Martinez.
Yes, sir.
Sir. I don't know, as Daryl was saying, we don't know if there's any other point of view on this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what she's gone through in herself. I've heard, was it someone in the show say she was part Caucasian herself? So I don't know.
I don't know.
So I don't know what her issues are, but it just seems as though this is not. It's already past the feeling of enough. And I don't want to brutalize the pronunciation, enough-molic. So this is not a sense of wanting to reach out and have a meeting of the minds, and I don't know if she feels that there could be, because I don't know what she's been through in her life.
Yeah, I don't think the notion of anaphomalic, the way that it's applied today, interesting enough, was the interest during this this rally or this this confrontation. But yeah, it's an example. It's an example to maybe this is the anger that we need to see so that we really know what's going on behind the scenes. Remember, she was the one that created the Commission on Decolonization, and
that requires a plebiscite, right? I mean, what they want is a plebiscite, right? And they want specifically a Chamorro only vote plebiscite.
The recent literature doesn't say exactly that. I have to read it again. They released this multi-page report, I guess, on decolonization and the choices. So we'll look into that. That's a good thing to look into, see if they're still promoting that, because it's been rendered not allowed. There's nothing to say that nobody privately can't pick up that poll and do one themselves. You know.
I know, and the thing is, she's been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, based on wanting a Chamorro only vote. So a lot of these people do not agree with the U.S. Constitution, and this is not just in the U.S. within the United States. This is internationally. And the thing that kind of gets my attention a little bit more is Mr. Uggan. And I don't know if that's going off point, but they seem to be in the same circles, supporting each other. And he has his book out.
I don't know who you're talking about, Mr. Uggan. Frank Uggan?
No, the lawyer. He's an advocate for Chamorro.
Are you talking about Julian Uggan?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he's doing a book tour. And the thing is that the big reason I listen to Tall Tales is Bob brings out really he's educational legalism, legal speak, so to speak. And so like Joe Friday says on the track, that just the facts. I don't want to hear all the other noise. We're confused enough as it is. I just want the facts. And so if we're talking about the system in place and we can find out what the wrongs have been to, in this case, we're talking about Guam, but don't make stuff up that, as far as perceived intentional wrongs versus happenstance or coincidental. I don't know that Bob believes in coincidence, although
I would say that Bob is more on the side of providential happenings rather than coincidence. But Joe, I want to thank you for your call. I know this is your second ride. We have a couple of people in the green room on their first ride.
Thank you very much.
Keep listening. Thanks for calling in. And we have Jerry on the line who wants to talk about the Department of Defense use of land. Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at this both sides.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of landowners that were really mad about having their land confiscated as eminent domain, all right? But they're also on the other side of the fence, too. You have to look at a lot of the politicians back then, the assemblymen, former Congressman Antonio Wampat, they were looking for an avenue. If they're going to be taking land away from us, then we need to come to a consensus with the U.S. government. If you're going to be doing that, then you need to give us something, okay? Perfect example, my grandfather, his land in Maina, they confiscated 90% of it. They would have taken the entire thing, but he pleaded with them. I said, I have nowhere to go. You take this land away. I am homeless, all right? And I understand it, the plight, because I had family who had all their land taken away from Sumai. You probably would know the Borja clan, where Bordalio Beach is at, all the way up to Oroti Point. That was all my ancestral land, and it was taken away. And I can understand why people to this day are still, wanting independence or they want their land back. Number one, it's never going to happen. Number two, we've already decided back in the 50s with the Organic Act, which was our leverage for them confiscating the land for Department of Defense use.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people are going to argue about this, and I'm like, good, because I want a discussion. You know, I want to know what really happened behind those doors.
Did you read the I forget his first name, Areola, used to be the chief of staff for Governor Calvo. He was a facilitator for a meeting of a programmatic agreement meeting that happened recently, and I liked what he reported out. He said that there were people that were on both sides that were invited to it, including Speaker Terlahi and Senator Perez, and he said that, you know, not everything was obtained. You specifically talking about Senator Perez, obtained the way that she would have wanted to, but there was a definite understanding that we had to work together. And I hear what you're saying. I do know, and I don't have too much historical knowledge on what happened when lands were taken, like in Sumai or anywhere. But was there compensation that was exchanged? I know it might not have been the amount that people would have liked to have, but did people not receive?
There's a reason being. I'll tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
And this is coming from my great grandfather. All right, he was telling me after the war, the naval government, the naval governor, was asking people to prove that they own the land. Well, think about it. After the war, did you think anybody had their records with them? Did you think anybody would have any of that stuff after the destruction of the entire island? A lot of people did not have it.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
And
for myself, I think I'll do some homework on that also, because I've heard stories like that, but I've also seen people who have been able to look into documents, especially the Spanish documents, to confirm land.
Yeah.
And they did need to be translated, and some of these documents are still in Spain. That I know that Paul Eric has gone over and have read some of these documents and translated. I know other people have translated as well. But it is a concern. But we are also in an age where, I don't know, it's kind of the I don't want to say rock and hard place. You know, we do have to take into consideration that there are people who feel like they've lost land, but what is the just compensation today? Because we can't turn back time, of course. What is something that can be done today without feeling like only certain people have a say in what happens to this island? And I think that's what a lot of people on this island want to be able to do, is to be able to have a voice, whether they have deep familiar roots on this island or even halfway familiar roots on this island. Like for myself, my family's from here. On my mom's side, her and her family came here right after the Organic Act was signed. She was 2 or 3 years old at the time for the Philippines, but my father's from here. But even then, if we go deeper into those roots, how many of us can say that we really have more roots on the European side, right? Because it was integrated with the Spanish greatly, and especially the Spanish that came from the Philippines.
Well, you have to remember, if you look back in history, my brother's pretty well versed in this. He's always posting stuff on Facebook. There was always a bottleneck of the population increase, decrease from disease. If you remember back in the 1800s, there was a smallpox epidemic that was brought in by the Philippines and wiped out thousands of Chamorros. I forgot, it was like 4 in every 10 Chamorros died from the smallpox. And you have to remember that. You know, that's why, as far as lineage, there is traces of our lineage that dates back to our ancestors here in Guam.
Right.
So, you know.
Let's all take DNA tests. You might be surprised.
I did.
You did? Oh, great.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna ask you to reveal. I know that there's probably lots to it.
I have Austronesian genes, you know, lineage. So
Was that the 21 and what did they say it? 21 and Me or something like that?
23andMe.
23andMe. Yeah, that's the chromosomes. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
like
liking to-
Ancestry only because you have to pay a membership. But the 23andMe, that's one-time shot, $79.
Oh, pretty cool. Pretty
So
cool.
I've actually traced my lineage to Germany, Spain. I have Pueblo Indian blood.
Oh, we could be related. That sounds like
Filipino
mine.
blood. Yeah, a lot of it Pueblo.
Just from stories. Very awesome. Well, thanks for calling in, Jerry. I don't know if heard from you before, but I really appreciate your call today.
Thank you.
Have a great one. You're listening to Tall Tales here on KUSG. I have Frenchie in the green room, but I think I'm going to take a real quick break to go to Wrigley Field, and we'll be right back with more Tall Tales after this.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, a Guam training every morning on The Ray Gibson Show.
Does your physical workplace have an impact on the mental outlook of workers, their overall job satisfaction, and their productivity? I'm Jerry Roberts, and at 7:20 a.m. on The Ray Gibson Show, we'll talk about that and what you might want to do about it. It's The Extra Point here on 93.3.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point by Jerry Roberts at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts on The Ray Gibson Show on 93.3 The Point.
Are you looking for a new place to hang out with your friends? Let's go along the sidelines at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Located at 154 Iriarte Road, Unit 4 and 5 in Tamuning behind Royal Bigs. Sidelines, a hidden gem with nothing but great things to offer. Great atmosphere, great food, top shelf drinks, and a great team. What are we waiting for? Let the fun begin at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 2 a.m. See you there.
Few parks that I've been to as a kid, and I don't know what the name of it is in Atlanta, but I used to watch the Atlanta Braves with my dad back in the early 80s when they wore the powder blue uniforms.
No,
it was a lot of
I wasn't there.
The seats were cheap because they weren't a very good team at the time, not until they reached the end of the 80s into the 90s. And then I did watch a game at Candlestick Park with the San Francisco Giants. I don't think Candlestick Park exists anymore either.
Nope.
And I have never seen a game in Boston, but I have been to the field. And I've seen the field lots of times, the big, I forget what they call it also. And then Miller Park, which is not called Miller Park anymore in Milwaukee. I've seen the Brewers a couple times. And then the year that the Brewers were good, the tickets went way up, and I believe I watched one of the White Sox, Chicago White Sox, play in Miller Stadium because they got snowed out, and so they played a couple of games where they were the home team over there, and the seats were really cheap because
one of the Sox.
One of the Sox. Well, I know Red Sox is in Boston, so it had to have been White Sox.
I've only been to two stadiums, only two, besides Paseo Stadium.
Oh.
And I was able to see
there.
the Anaheim Angels.
Oh, cool.
In '99, but my team has been because when I moved to the D.C. area, it was the first year that I was there in that spring was the last season of the Washington Senators.
Oh,
and so I never did go to that stadium in D.C., but I did go when
that's
I
a
moved.
minor league team, right? The Senators?
No, they moved to Texas.
Oh, I don't know.
They became the Texas Rangers.
Okay.
In 71. In 72, starting in 72.
Yeah, just reminded me, I used to also watch the Hawaii Islanders. I think that's a minor league team at, I want to say Aloha Stadium. I think that's the name, but back in the 80s.
Is that a farm team?
Could be.
Well, my team.
But it's
is,
Hawaii, so I don't think anybody would want to have a farm team out in Hawaii. It'd just be too expensive to fly other teams out to play them. But
they
were
could play
there.
all the time.
Yeah.
All year round, and then lots of practice. But my team really is the Baltimore Orioles, and I was there when Cal Ripken was the coach, and his son came in as a rookie,
junior.
And, that was the year I was there, the 81, 82. Those are great times.
He went to
Eddie
go play
Murray
for the Red Sox too, right? Cal Ripken?
Cal Ripken?
Am I thinking somebody else, junior?
No,
I'm thinking somewhere else. Someone
Baltimore
else.
Orioles the whole time.
All right, from the green field to the green room, Frenchie. Good afternoon. Are you going to tell me that all the great war stories of the French versus the Dahomey? Is that how you pronounce them?
Dahomey. Yeah.
Dahomey.
No, I'm not going to say that. I just want to. I'll brag so that I've been to a lot more baseball field than you two have been.
What? Well, you're well traveled, that's for sure.
Yeah. I think I did at least 12 baseball stadiums.
Wow.
So, anyhow.
Well, thank you for your call. It's been great.
No, I really enjoyed that article you read because it's kind of the natural follow-up on Xena, the warrior princess.
Yeah.
From the 1990s, where this woman would defeat men 3 times their size and beat them up to a pulp. But Dahomey was actually one of the largest and most successful kingdom in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically started in the early 1600s, so 17th century, all the way till 1894, which is the end of the kingdom of Dahomey.
Right.
And to give you an idea where Dahomey is now located, because at the independence of Dahomey, it became a republic, the Republic of Dahomey, and then it changed name in 1975 to Benin. So it's located between Togo and Nigeria, so it is on the west coast of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And because it was on the west coast of Africa, it made a lot of money with the slave trade.
Oh, yeah.
The Dahomey people are part of the Fon, F-O-N, the Fon ethnic group,
mm-hmm.
and they moved from their original place and kind of took over that region, which is now the area of Dahomey. They came from the Yoruba tribe, and they left an area further inland, which is called Ketu, and then they settled more towards the sea, so they had access to commerce, right? They basically split in 2 groups: the Ewe, who moved to what is now Togo, who was an German colony before it became a French protectorate in the 20th century, and the Fon, who are called also Dauma or Dahomeans. And those people were one of the most powerful African kingdom. They were doing a lot of razzias, which is raids against other ethnic groups, and then they would enslave them and sell them. Most of the slaves, the coast of Dahomey was also nicknamed the Slave Coast. So that shows you how heavy the traffic of slaves was in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, when the French and the English were trying to control the coast, Nigeria, Dahomey area, they ended the slave trade, which stopped a very important income for the kingdom, because they were trading mostly with Brazil. They were dealing with Brazilian slave traders, and so they actually continued the slave trade way after it was over in the Western world, all the way to the 1890s, until they were defeated. Now, as far as the Amazons of Dahomey, they did exist. Actually, they even were a queen of Dahomey, who was the daughter of the first king. Her name, if I'm not, I think it's Tassi with 2 S. So it has a little Chamorro connotation here. So it's Tassi. She only ruled the kingdom for 3 years. So she is the one that created kind of a Praetorian Guard around her with women. And they were very good at basically, they were called the Uchpaja, which means the last circle. So it was the last defense around the queen. And they were very well trained and very good. And they participated a lot in the raids against the farming communities which supplied a lot of the slaves. And they were known to be fairly barbaric. They like to cut the genitalia of their male captives and stuff like that. So, so it did happen. The French kind of took control of the major port on the coast, which is called Cotonou, which is the actual capital of Benin right now, in 1870. But they didn't. There was 2 wars against the kingdom. 1890 and 1894, which led to the Dahomey becoming a colony of France until 1960. I want to say 1960. And then it changed. It became even a communist country for a while when it changed to the name of Benin. And the Fons, even though they do not belong in the political structure of modern Benin, they are still extremely influential on the tribal councils. And the women are still, especially from the Ewe or Anglos subdivision of the tribes, who are on the eastern part of the Volta River. And the Volta comes from basically the south of the Sahara all the way down to the coast. And you used to have another French colony called the Upper Volta, which is now called Burkina Faso. You have the 2 major ethnics there, the Ewe and the Wasi. The Wasi was also called Wachi, depending who pronounce it. And they are still very much in power in those areas. So they control a lot of things. But basically, it was not what the movie is.
Well, I have yet to see the film. I just, again, I was just incredibly amused by this op-ed / review, totally rationalizing the bad behavior and said, just never mind it, because this is about, and then applied present rhetoric to something that happened a long time ago, and as if that was something to be revered.
It lasted basically 2 centuries. The kingdoms of Dahomey lasted 2 centuries. The Amazons were really for the 3-year period of the Queen's kingdom, and then some of the kings kept them as Praetorian Guard. They thought it was kind of a nice advantage to have a Praetorian Guard where they don't have to worry about that. But the dynasty of the Dahomey kings is quite long. It's 15 different kings and 1 queen. So it was a substantial and very rich kingdom, and they basically just were overwhelmed by modern weapons. And that didn't happen until the discovery of quinine and things which allowed Western Europeans to be able to live inside in the inlands of Africa, because before that they would die after 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just makes me think, with this rich history, just the way that wokeism is these days, especially in the United States, if these were Eastern or Western Europeans who had this dynasty of slave trading, because that's where most of the wealth came from, or a lot of the wealth came from, how it would be celebrated today, because we see how even our founding fathers, or the founding fathers of the United States, have been canceled, whether they own slave property or not.
Well, you see that woke thing creeping in Hollywood at every level.
Mm-hmm.
Some Norwegian researchers found out that there was a substantial amount of women among the Vikings that would fight along the men, which was not unusual because they work in the field along the men. They did a lot of things, and in those days there were not many people, so they were kind of it was a kind of all hands on deck type of thing.
Yeah.
But now Hollywood made it like basically the Vikings won is because they had so many females in their ranks.
That's the new narrative.
But yeah, and to kind of back up what our previous scholar was saying regarding the Chamorro origins, it's very interesting that before Spain handed over Guam to the U.S., because we had very bad, there was no medical doctors on island throughout the Spanish occupation or administration, whatever you want to call it, depending where you sit from. And there were several very bad disease that wiped out a large amount of the population. And right before Guam was ceded to the Americans, the Spaniards had done a repopulation campaign by bringing between 2,000 and 3,000 people from Agrihan, Chamorros from Agrihan, to Guam to repopulate because the population had dropped to almost nothing. So there are very, very few pure Chamorro of Guam descent. There's been a lot of Filipino mixing and a lot of Chamorros that came from the other islands around Guam, but they are not from Guam originally. So the whole charade about it's our land, this land is our land, and blah blah blah. Actually, it's based on a fantasy because even the people that are very Chamorro, that have a high share of genes from Chamorro background, actually are not from Guam originally. There are very, very few of them.
Yeah, and I think that's where people move the threshold, the lines, right? Where's the cutoff point? Because
exactly.
I even talk about people when they say, that's not Chamorro, that's or this is ancient Chamorro practices. I'm like, well, people who were before the pre-Latte period would say no. A Latte stone, for instance, would not be ancient Chamorro, and so you have to, I think, base it. People have to base it on where they're coming from, and even their experiences. But you're right.
And like in the Philippines, and this is the 800-pound gorilla in the room for the pro-independence. Like in the Philippines, most of the people that are powerful on the islands are the strong families that actually chose to cooperate with the Spaniards and became prominent and stayed around Agatna. But if you look at the way, even to this day, some of the Chamorros look down on people from Merizo or Yucatan. It's kind of funny that you still see that caste type of separation between what I would call the mestizo, for lack of better word, that are more white and more Spanish, like you see in the Philippines, compared to the dark-skinned Chamorros from the south of the island. it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. I'm sure that if there was really serious studies of the gene, you would be amazed what the result would be. But I think it would embarrass a lot of people. That's why you don't see any political wills to do so.
Yeah. We can go on a lot of discrepancies and these little factors that seem to go against the narrative. I don't want to bring it up here on this show because that's a whole different subject. But I'll definitely speak with you off the air about that.
Just like we end up with Amazons from Dahomey, right. We end up with a super fit, muscular warrior chief in front of the Guam Museum, while the descriptions of the Chamorros by the missionaries was more like a little chubby kind of group of people, that were kind of chubby on the side, just like the Polynesians.
Oh, so that makes me 100% Chamorro.
You probably have more Chamorro blood than some of the people.
No.
But you know what I mean. I mean, there is that mythological fantasy that somehow, Chamorros were those giant warrior type muscles.
And it's funny, almost all cultures have that, but they call them tall tales.
Yeah, I know.
Pico's Bill, or Paul Bunyan.
Yeah, but that's where all those fantasies, like the Amazon and the fit warriors of the Chamorro background, it's actually very similar. It's the tales that people want us to believe. Yeah. All right. Anyhow. Thanks for
the call. I was really looking forward to you talking about the French history in those areas, because I know it's very interesting as well. But again, for another time, maybe when the women, when there's a sequel.
It's actually a very anti-Catholic in many ways.
Oh yeah. That's very
true
too.
Because of the secular Third Republic, which was sending secular missionaries all over the world to spread the good word about the French Revolution.
Very cool. That's it. I know how you feel about that, especially Bastille Day.
Long live the king. Long live the king.
Thanks again for your call, Frenchie. Looking forward to the next time. Have a good one. You're listening to Tall Tales here on KUSG 93.3 FM. My name is Jose. We'll be right back after this quick break. Don't go away.
The Guam Chamber of Commerce celebrates its 98th anniversary at the Hyatt Regency Guam, September 24th, 2022. This year's theme, Purple Rain. Its membership comprises many corporations, large and small entrepreneurs, women-owned and veteran-owned businesses, and nonprofit organizations. Their contributions make Guam an excellent place to live, work, and play. The Guam Chamber also salutes many of its members for celebrating milestone anniversaries, aged 25 to 75 years. Let's congratulate the Guam Chamber of Commerce and its members on celebrating its 98th anniversary.
Half a day. This is Clara Manglona from Security Title. A power of attorney can be a useful tool in a real estate transaction, but if abused, it can result in devastating loss. Choosing your representative should be done with the utmost care and should be very specific about the powers being granted. To mitigate loss, the team at Security Title confirms with the owner prior to using a power of attorney to sell the property. Each transaction is unique. Let the professionals at Security Title use our experience to facilitate a secure closing. We are here to help.
Churchill Downs, just a few more minutes to go. The home stretch of Tall Tales here on Monday. You are listening to Tall Tales on KUSG 93.3 FM. And I just want to thank everybody for nominating us for Best Radio Station, Pika's Best. Voting for the definitive title will begin on October 4th on through PDN.com. And
wait.
yeah, we also want to give accolades to our radio personalities who are nominated. Kyle Mandapat from Star 101, which was also nominated for Best Radio Station. Our own Ray Gibson here from The Morning Show. Daryl Lazama and Albert Wan, both from Boss 104. As well, Boss 104 was nominated for Best Radio Station as well. We have a little in-house competition, a little friendly competition between our three stations here at Choice. But again, we want to thank you guys, the international listening radio audience and our local listening radio audience for nominating us to be in the running for Best Radio Station 2022. We have the most dangerous man in the green room. Good afternoon, our Carl. You're going to bring us to the end of the program?
I don't know if I'm going to stay on that long.
What say you?
But I just want to add my 2 bits regarding this infighting, sometimes within races or cultures. And in one of Thomas Sowell's books, The Thomas Sowell Reader, there's a chapter, a really interesting chapter. I read it some time ago, so the details are not quite super clear, but it's titled Booker T. Washington After 100 Years. And what happened is that during slavery and the period after, there were, there was a class of people who were called, freedmen, freemen, who were they were slaves, and then they gained their freedom. They either bought their way out of it, or they were just they were able somehow to get out of slavery. And sometimes I think it was the people who were, they call them the house slaves, I guess. They were exposed to a lot more things, and they were somewhat more educated. And as the issue of slavery progressed, there was the Emancipation Proclamation, and after that, this schism was there between the two. Those slaves who had remained slaves and had been emancipated and were largely uneducated, and there were the more educated, the free class, who had gotten out sooner and had more education and just a different worldview. And what happened is that these two camps developed between Booker T. Washington, who actually rose out of slavery. He was a slave, and he actually started a college which did extremely well. It educated blacks and helped them to gain foothold in rising out of poverty. And Tuskegee Institute is the name of the institute that he started. And this other camp was headed by especially W.E.B. Du Bois, who was more intellectual. He later became very pro-communist. He visited Russia and praised Russia, during all these mass murders that were going on. But there was a schism between the two, and it became so bad that at one point there was one of the jokes that went around among the ones who had been most affected by slavery was that NAACP stood for National Association for the Advancement of Certain People.
That's not what C stands for.
Yeah, there was
right.
A lot of resentment among these two classes, and the one class that was more educated, and maybe there was some intermarriage, maybe there was a little lighter skin in some cases. There was kind of a snooty attitude, that we're better than them, kind of thing, and that really rubbed people the wrong way, understandably.
Right. And we've seen throughout history, even today, all groups of people have their inner conflicts. I'm not too sure about the ones here on Guam. I have an idea. It probably is the light skin, dark skin. That's usually how it goes. Same thing with in the Philippines, the mestizo versus the darker skinned people.
And what I see locally, among fellow Chamorros, is this attitude of the authenticity You know, that we're more authentic. You guys are Pau'asu Chamorros. You know, you think you're hot stuff. You know, you go back to the States.
Oh, on social media, there's a collection of people who frown upon those of the diaspora who have never been to Guam, but know of their roots. Their parents moved, before they were born to the States, and then they came back here. I'm kind of in that camp. I always came back when I was a kid, but I wasn't born or raised here in the sense that I spent a good enough time of schooling here. But I was raised in the culture, and in the sense I was raised knowing that I'm from Guam, that I am Chamorro and also Filipino. And, for a time I was raised in Hawaii also as a kid, and that helped a little bit. But you see those things. I always had this notion that I had to prove myself. I kind of did that in 2009, but I still continually have to prove myself even more to authenticate myself here on Guam.
Exactly, but yeah, wherever you go, there's class divisions. You know, even within races and cultures, ethnicities, it's just human nature. You know, there's that one-upmanship, unfortunately, but that's just the way it is. Anyway, I just wanted to add my 2 bits about that. That class division.
Well, thank you very much.
The Black community.
Yep, it's everywhere, and maybe one day they'll make a movie out of it so it erases all of that division as if it never happened.
By the way, I just want to highly recommend the Thomas Sowell Reader if someone wants to kind of dip into and get the flavor of Thomas Sowell's thinking. It's a fantastic book, and it's got short chapters in it, and it's got it covers so many different topics, and including race and ethnicity, political issues, economics, social issues. The guy is prolific. I mean, just fantastic. So highly recommend it if anyone's interested.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you for your call. The most dangerous man, our Carl. Have a great day.
From one Pau'asu to another.
Right. You know what I forgot to do, Daryl?
What's that?
Public Law 3634. We have a couple more minutes. Let's just go over. There's 3 of them that I found over the weekend.
Okay.
The first one is from the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority. Bum, bum, bum. This is a notice of a Zoom video public hearing. So I'm not sure if this falls under the public law as far as how it puts the information out here. There's a narrative paragraph that says, notice is hereby given that the GMHA will be conducting a public hearing on hospital new rates, fees, and charges. Documents relating to this proceeding are available at our website. And then when it puts the agenda down, it just says 3, purpose of the public hearing, but doesn't list any purpose under there. Are we supposed to refer back to the narrative?
I think they might have forgotten. Maybe they sent out the notice without having typed in the purpose.
Yeah, we don't. What is the purpose?
It's like the placeholder on a draft.
Right? They forgot the brackets.
They forgot to put in the purpose.
Forgot to put in the purpose. So that's one of them. The Guam Education Board has put one out, announcement out for a meeting that's supposed to happen on Tuesday, September 20th. They have a lot of things going on, unfinished business, including uniform policies, renaming of schools, a lot of things that need to be decided or commented on. But then they have Section 7, new business, and nothing put there. Don't even know if they're going to be discussing it or not because it doesn't say none. So that's something to be concerned about because they do have a lot on the agenda for unfinished business that could be contested. And then we have the Alcohol Beverage Control Board notice of a regular meeting. And on number 11, they have other discussions. But underneath that, they have open forums. So I don't know what other discussions are. Let's ask him. You're listening to Tall Tales. We'll be right back tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Is approaching. I'm Laura Cantor, Fox News. Queen Elizabeth II will be laid to rest at a state funeral Monday. President Biden, along with other world leaders, will be in attendance. The doors of 900-year-old Westminster Hall closed to mourners early Monday. Hundreds of thousands of people had waited in line for hours to visit the Queen's coffin. The Queen died at the age of 96 after a 70-year reign. President Biden approving an emergency declaration to aid Puerto Rico in dealing with Hurricane Fiona. WOFL Fox Orlando's Stephanie Bufamonte has the report.
Video shows massive flooding and strong winds in Puerto Rico. Those who live there are facing life-threatening rainfall and dangerous mudslides. The National Hurricane Center says Fiona could bring up to 30 inches of rain to the eastern and southern parts of the island.
The storm striking several eastern Caribbean islands, with one death reported in the French territory of Guadeloupe. President Biden said he believes the COVID-19 pandemic is now over during his interview with CBS's 60 Minutes Sunday. He added that the U.S. continues to have a problem with the virus. In response to the Biden administration's border control policies, Republican governors Ron DeSantis of Florida and Greg Abbott of Texas have been transporting migrants up to northern cities. Fox's Lucas Tomlinson has more.
Republican Senator Mike Rounds defended the decision to send these migrants to blue states, saying millions have already illegally crossed the southern border since President Biden took office. Rounds says these southern border towns are simply overwhelmed.
You're talking about 3.4 million people just since the start of this Biden administration that have crossed the border, and they're coming into southern states. What is a governor supposed to do?
The Biden administration says the governors are using migrants for political purposes. America is listening to Fox News.
Get all of your favorite Fox News podcasts ad-free on Apple Podcasts with Fox News Podcasts Plus. From Trey Gowdy, the Fox News Rundown, Will Kane, Brian Kilmeade, and so much more. Go to foxnewspodcasts.com for all the details. The Fox News Rundown, a contrast of perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. Your daily dose of news twice a day, featuring insight from top newsmakers, reporters, and Fox News contributors. Listen and subscribe now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com. New from the Fox News Podcasts Network, Dana Perino, co-host of the 5 and America's Newsroom on Fox News Channel, returns to the world of audio with a new limited-time podcast, Everything Will Be Okay with Dana Perino. Building off the success of her best-selling book of the same name, Dana provides an unequaled brand of advice built on real-life experience and interviews experts and individuals that make a difference in the lives of others. Subscribe and listen now